Hi, I'm Peter Jones, Chartered Surveyor, author and property investor. How do I choose a good property management company and what do they do? Well, first of all, let's clarify what we mean, because sometimes you'll hear people referring to letting agents and you'll hear people referring to managing agents, and often the term is interchangeable and they do the same thing. Most letting agents will manage the property, but some don't. It's rare, but you might find a company who only does a letting, then they want you to pass the property on to somebody else to do the management. Most managing agents will do lettings. Again, rarely you will sometimes find managing agents who only do management, but by and large, most do both lettings and management. How do you find a good one? Well, one of the best ways to find a good one is to go by word of mouth recommendations. This is the power of networking, getting out and talking to other investors and landlords, getting onto the forums, going onto the Facebook groups and asking people who they can recommend. And there's trial and error. So for example, with my portfolio in the northeast up in Newcastle, I at one stage had 4 different managing agents, but over time I realised that one managing agent was better than the other 3. And so I migrated my properties across. Now that didn't happen on day one. So it may be that it's going to take you a little bit of time to actually work out who the best managing agent is for you when you start to build your portfolio. What do they actually do? Well, that's a great question. As I say, initially I'd be looking for an agent who can do lettings. They'll all have their own different preferred ways of doing lettings. Ideally, you want an agent who can get your properties onto Zoopla and Rightmove, maybe Gumtree, and for them to do the viewings, you'd want them to vet potential tenants, doing credit checks, taking references, all of that kind of stuff. Maybe producing an inventory, which is basically a schedule of condition for the property and a schedule of condition if there's furniture, if you're letting it furnished. Dealing with all the admin, which is now around letting properties. So they'd have to do the checks on the tenant for immigration purposes. You'd want them to take a deposit and protect the deposit for you. You'd want them to prepare the tenancy agreement, and you'd want to make sure that they do it in a way and then they let the property in a way that allows you to then keep your rights. So for example, they need to give the tenant the booklet, the government guide to renting. They need to have a copy of the EPC, Energy Performance Certificate. All of this needs to be given to the tenant, and the tenant needs to acknowledge that they've had it so that you can protect your rights under Section 21 should you ever need to evict the tenant. Hopefully you won't have to, but if you did have to, then that needs to be in place. What else will they do? Well, at a very basic level, they're obviously going to collect the rent. They're going to hopefully do periodic inspections of the property to make sure that the tenant's maintaining the property as they should. And they're going to organise repairs for you. One of the great things about letting agents is that they should have a team who are in place who can do the repairs. And because they have client landlords who obviously want a good job done, then the team they're using should be a good team, which means that you can then, with confidence, ask them to undertake repairs for you. Now that might not come at cost. They might want to add a bit on for their fees as a sort of project management fee, but that can be a useful service as well. Far better than you having to rush out and unblock the toilet at midnight. They've got a plumber who they can call to do it for you. So the reason why I like managing agents a lot is because I don't like dealing with tenants and I don't like managing my own properties. Some people feel very comfortable about managing their own properties. I guess if you're buying properties which are near where you live, it makes it easier. I tend to buy away from where I live, partly because it's cheaper and it makes sense in terms of the strategy that I undertake within property. But one of the benefits to me is that I don't actually live next door to my tenants, which I think is a plus. Because I don't want to be around, if the tenant sees you in the street or they see you at the pub, they're probably going to come up to you and say, could you just come and sort this out for me? I don't have to get involved in that. There's horses for courses. Well, I hope you found that informative and inspirational. And if you want help in property, please do come over to my website, www.thepropertyteacher.co.uk. Loads of great resources there, including my blog. There's loads of free videos, loads of great articles. There's free reports to download, including Learning with Peter, where you'll be able to access resources like my video courses, like my ebooks, including my home study course, the Successful Property Investors Strategy Workshop, which I've literally sold thousands of copies of, which takes you through how I started in property, literally with none of my own money, but how I was able to build a portfolio of £2 million worth of property in just 4 years. I'll show you everything that I did right so that you can do the same, and I'll show you everything that I did wrong. I'll tell you about all of my mistakes so that you can avoid them, so that you can progress in property far more quickly than me. Until next time, here's to successful property investing.